Hi everyone, welcome to another Arma 3 editor tutorial. I've had a lot of questions about spawning AI groups, and this one is going to show you some really good methods to use to spawn in groups. The first is to spawn in a group of AI that will hunt your player, and they will continue to hunt your player until they get you. The second method will spawn a group of enemy AI at a particular location stationary, they won't move. And the third method, which is the coolest and the one I've used quite often in my missions, is a trigger that will spawn a group of enemy AI that will then move to waypoints that I've placed on the map even before they spawn in. So once they're in, they will then move to those waypoints. And I'll show you how each of these methods works, and then we'll get into how to achieve it. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the group of hunters that will hunt your player. I've set up a trigger with a hint on it, and the hint will appear, there you go, top right, you are being hunted. So what this will do is it will spawn in an enemy AI troop. You can have one or two or as many as you like, and this guy will move in to my location and hunt me down. Now I've set the hunter group to be a size of 2, so there will be a second one spawn in. Believe me, this does work. There is a bit of a delay on it because it would be kind of unrealistic if they all spawned in at once. And that will be in a random direction. There won't be any particular... Okay, so there we go. Off in a different direction, we've got another guy spawn in. And as you can see, they will move stealthily. They will use cover and concealment. And they will move to your group and hunt you guys out. Now, I've spawned in 2. If you don't take those 2 out, you will quickly have 4, then you'll have 6, then you'll have 8, and so on. They will continue to spawn in, and it doesn't matter if you've taken the first 2 out. If you haven't taken the first 2 out, there will be more. So, oh look, we've got another one now. So that will continue on and on and on for the entire mission unless you stop it with another trigger. The second method will spawn an AI group in the position of a marker that I've placed, and I've set this onto a radio trigger, but you can use whatever sort of activation you like for your trigger. So I'm just going to activate the radio trigger, and I've just had a group of enemy spawn out there, and they will remain stationary, they won't move. So it's good if you want to have an AI group spawn in to guard a location, because if they see me or I get too close to them, they will react and start attacking me. And the third method, and the one I find the most useful for missions, is to spawn in an enemy AI group that will then move to specific waypoints that I've placed in the editor. So I'm going to run into this trigger. There we go, enemy group spawned, and I'm just going to watch these guys, because they've spawned in. Now I've set a waypoint for them to run kind of away from my location, and I'll just speed this up. They will get to a point, and then they will sort of pause and change direction, and now they're moving to the second waypoint, which is closer to where I am, which is really useful if you want to have enemy moving on waypoints after they've spawned in. And I'll show you how to achieve all that now. Now, to spawn in the hunter group, obviously we need a playable unit, and I've set down a trigger with an activation of any player present. And in here, I just have this line of code in the on activation section. So these guys are going to hunt for the player. They are going to be op4. And here I have 2 class names for 2 enemy that will spawn in. And then we've just got a simple spawn BIS FNC or function spawn enemy. So that will spawn these guys in. Now, if you just wanted to have one guy spawn in, then we take out this line here. Okay. So now we're only going to have 1 spawn in, or back to having 2. If you placed a comma and then another class name in inverted commas and put it after the comma, you'll then have 3 spawn in. Okay, so that's how that works. And I'm going to save this mission and export it into a folder that you can open in the editor. So you can have a look at this and have a play with it and have a look at the inside of the triggers and work out how to do it for yourself. The second method that spawns a group of AI that are stationary is also on a trigger, and this is just a simple radio trigger. And I've given the name of the group here and equals, and then get marker pos mark 1. I'm going to be spawning east 7. The call BIS function spawn group, and then I've put a hint that a stationary group has spawned. Now for this to work, you'll see that on the map I have placed an empty system marker and given it the variable name of mark 1. To get empty system markers, we go to markers, down to system, and we select empty. And you'll notice it's got that variable name. So inside that trigger, inside this trigger, I have get marker pos, and mark 1 is the name of that marker. So a group of AI there will spawn and remain stationary. And again, this trigger will be in the mission that you can download and play with yourself. Now, this method of using waypoints to spawn an enemy group and have them move on waypoints is a little trickier. Again, it's all going to be in the mission, but I'm going to go into a more detailed explanation because this is a little bit of messing around. So firstly, you can see I've got 3 game logic markers on the map. So this marker here is where the enemy will spawn. This is their first waypoint. This is their second waypoint, and you can actually set a lot more waypoints. And I'll go into the trigger and we'll have a look at what that has in it. Okay, so the trigger is activation any player present. Condition is call this, and we have a bit of code in here which I'm going to copy out of here and open in Notepad++, and we're going to edit it there because it's just a lot easier to do it in there than it is to do it in the Arma 3 editor. So here we are in Notepad++, and all I did was copy that code from that trigger and paste it into this text editor. And here you can see I've got T group 2. So this is just a name for the group. You can call that whatever you like. Let me just go back one and back one again. There we go. Okay, so we're going to use insert, and we're just going to change that to 1. And this is just a name that the mission will use to access or reference the group. So get pos ENS1. Now that ENS1 is the variable name of the game logic I have placed in the editor, which is the spawn location for the group. The group type will be east, and then I have an entry here which is a config file entry. Now don't panic, I'll show you how to get this as well. So this is basically the config file for an enemy op4 squad in vanilla Arma 3. Then we have call BIS function spawn group, and then here we have delete group. I'll just change that to 1. Delete group 1. So delete group when empty true. So when they're all taken out, the game will delete them. And here we have the waypoints. And the important thing to note here is TWP, which is the variable names I've given to the waypoint logics that I've placed in the editor. Again, don't panic. If you're not familiar with this, I'll explain how to do that, and it's not that difficult. So you see I have WP1, so that's the first waypoint, waypoint 1, waypoint 2, and I've also got another entry here for waypoint 2, set waypoint type, SAD. SAD, which is search and destroy, and that's the one that I use as a default. And then at the end I have a hint, which is enemy group spawn. So it will display that text at the top right of the screen when that trigger is activated, and I've done that simply so I know that the trigger has worked. Now all you need to do is copy that text out of the text editor and put it in the on activation section and press OK, and that will work. Now for the actual locations, you'll see here my first game logic is, or has a variable name of ENS1, which is just an abbreviation for enemy spawn 1. Okay, now how do you get a game logic? So we go to systems and we go here to logic entities, and we select a game logic and we put it on the map. So that's a pretty simple way. So that's the first one, ENS1, and here I have another game logic with a variable name of TWP1 and another one here of TWP2, and these are the waypoints that are referenced in the trigger. So there you can see I have ENS1, which is the location that the group will spawn in, and then I have TWP1 and TWP2, which are the waypoints. Now what I'll show you is the config file group entry for the squad that you want to have spawn in. And again, I'm going to go back to the text editor after I've copied this, just to make it a little bit easier to edit. So to get the class name of the group, we go up to Tools, down to Config Viewer, and you need to scroll through the list here until you find CFG Groups. And you can see we have East, Empty, Independent, and West. Now I want an OP4 group, so I'm going to go here. So we double click on the little plus symbols, and here down the bottom, when you click on that, you'll see that this down here changes, and this up here is the description of the group. So the first one there is an assault squad, and here is the config for that group. So all we need to do is highlight, press Ctrl C on your keyboard to copy it. Then what we're going to do is from the C of the word config all the way to the last inverted comma, we're going to press Ctrl V and paste that in there. So that's what it should look like. Again, this will be in the mission in the trigger, so you can have a look at the format for it. And the reason I edit it in the text editor is it's just simpler to do. So if I now select all of this, press Ctrl C to copy, and in the trigger I take all of that out and paste in my new stuff, this will still work. And I'll show you. So I'm about to cross into the trigger. Enemy group spawned, and there they are. And these guys you'll see are no longer CSAT, they are now the FIA faction, which is what I've selected. And they will run to the first waypoint. There will be a pause, and then they'll run to the next waypoint. And they are set as behavior type search and destroy, and that's exactly what they will do. So that is 3 different methods for spawning in AI. The first will spawn a hunter or hunter group. The next one will spawn a static position of enemy troops, and the last one will spawn a group that will move on waypoints. I hope this has been useful for you guys. There are a couple of other ways to do this, but I'll go into those at a later stage. I hope you've gotten something from this video. Thanks for your support. Please give us a thumbs up and a sub. And I'll see all you guys and gals in the next video. Take care.